Hey everyone, welcome back. In the last video we set up our Apollo server and we explored our data with the GraphQL playground, and basically we borrowed a lot of code from the Apollo docs because they were good enough to give it to us. So today we're going to spend a little bit more time on our own just sort of cleaning things up, and then we'll add TypeScript to our project and then configure things accordingly. So if you recall last time, and this is something I forgot to show you, in your GraphQL playground, you actually have access to your schema right here, right? You don't need to go back to your code editor and look at your typeDefs there. If you click on this tab, you can see you've got all of your types right here. And then if you want to know what is available to you in terms of actions like queries and mutations, you can just click on docs and it'll tell you you just have this user's query. Alright, but for now, let's go back to our code and let's clean things up a little bit. We'd like to take the users and move them out of the index.js file, create a sort of mock database folder for now. We'd like to put our typeDefs in another file called schema, and then we'd like to put resolvers in their own file called resolvers. So first, let's get rid of these of the users here and put them in a folder sorry, computer's frozen up here a little bit. There we go. So put those in a folder called database. And then add a file to that folder. And we'll just call it mockdb.js for now. Right, and then grab, well, let's go into that new file first and set it up. And we'll say users. And we'll be returning all of this. Let's go ahead and cut that, get rid of this, you won't need it. And we'll need to export this. Okay, and then we'll have to bring that into our file. Our index.js file. Alright, so we have our users available this way. Let's run our server just to make sure everything's good. Looks like it is. Go over to our playground. So it's still working. Alright, let's do the same thing now for our typeDefs. So recall, we need to use this GQL module to make use of the schema definition language. So first, in the source folder, create another folder called GraphQL, and that's where we'll put all of our GraphQL related code. All right, and in there we'll add a file called schema. We'll make it a .js file for now. Okay, in our schema.js, let's first bring in GQL. And then what we'll need to return, I'm not sure why I'm getting this error here. Sorry. Thinking ES6 when we're not using ES6 right now. Alright, and what we need to return is all of this stuff. Let's cut that out. Right, and bring that into your index.js. All right, let's make sure our typeDefs are working for us. Server's running. Let's check out our playground just to verify. All right, that's all good. All right, and finally, we'll handle our resolvers. So we don't need any of this anymore. We never did. So in your GraphQL folder, make a file called resolvers.js. And in that file, we'll need to return this right here. Sorry, we'll need to return all of this. So we don't need that anymore. And let's bring in our resolvers. All right, but now since our resolvers function is using these users here, we don't want these here. We want them in our resolvers file. Let's go ahead and cut that. All right, so that should be good. All right, let's run our server again. All right, check our playground one more time. Okay, good. So we were able to clean things up a little bit. Our index.js file is a lot leaner. All of the, well, much of the code has been put out into other parts of the project tree. So for now, what we'll want to do is we'll want to change our JavaScript and start using TypeScript. So what we'll need first to import is, of course, TypeScript. So we'll also need a package called tsnode. And since we're going to be working with Node.js and in TypeScript, we'll also need to import the types that go along with Node. And oftentimes when you have a package and things aren't working out for you, you'll be able just to install @type/ whatever that package name is, if it's available, and it'll solve your problems. If not, you'll have to take other measures. All right, and these are going to be dev dependencies. Right, remember what we're doing with TypeScript is we're making our project type safe during development, right? Which means if we're going to get errors, we're going to get them at development or during development and not at runtime. So these are dev dependencies. All right, good. So let's make sure those got installed. Right, and they did. All right, so maybe the first thing you want to do is go into your index.js file, or not go into, but actually let's rename this to be a TypeScript file. All right, and also what we'll want to do is we'll want to initialize things with TypeScript. So we'll say tsc init, and what error are we getting here? Sorry, I don't know what I was thinking. It's not tsc init, it's tsc -- init. Okay, good, and that created for us our tsconfig.json file. All right, and there's a lot of stuff going on in here. Try not to worry too much about all of it right now. What's necessary in this video is just a few of these. So anyway, the nice thing is we can actually change things so that instead of using ES5, we can use ES6, right? And that's going to be in line with, say, when you create a React file and you import modules using import something from something, rather than using constant something equals require something. Right? It just makes things a little bit more consistent on both the front end and the back end. Plus, if you're used to working in ES6, then you'll want to do this as soon as possible. So let's make our target ES6, right? Which means that we can go into our files, like say for example, let's go into this one here, right? Rather than doing this, sorry about that. We could just do this. All right, and then when we bring it in to our resolvers file, we don't need to do this. And we should have users available to us, and we do. So that's good. Right now in our schema file, we don't need to do this. just do that, and then bring those into our index.js file. And actually, you see that it's not liking this import right here. Now this is our first TypeScript error right here, and it says it can't find a declaration file for this module. Now one thing we could do is we could just call this schema.js file schema.ts. Alright, and then that removes that error. Right, and that allows us to bring in our typeDefs. There they are. That's one thing we could do, but say, and this shouldn't be JS, right? It should be TS. There you go. All right, that's one way of doing it. But say we don't want to do that. Say that we want to leave it a JS file, right? Because we wrote our type definitions out. We know they're good. We're confident. We don't have to worry about making a type error with those, right? So we can just leave it a JS file if we wanted to. Sorry, not that one. The schema. We could do that. And then, of course, our error comes back. And then in our TS config file, it says here, allow JavaScript files. That's what this means, is allow JavaScript files, and we can say true. All right, so we go back here, that error goes away, and again, we're good. All right, now our resolvers. Okay. Now we've got everything in here. Now we've got one error here, and this is another TypeScript error, right? It says our element URL has an implicit, or implicitly has the any type, and the any type means, you know, it can use whatever type. It doesn't need to be typed specifically as a string or as a number or whatever. Right, but we're going to get this error until we do something about it. And with destructuring, what we can do is we could say, give it a type here, right? We could say URL is of type, and it should be a string, right? Right, and that fixes that problem. And if you don't remember why it's a string, or if this is, you didn't watch the last video, you can take a look at the response that we're getting here. Okay. And then we can just console log the response. But of course, we're still going to get a type error here. And we'll make this an object because the response was an object. All right, and if we run this file, actually no, we can't run this file the way it is. We've turned it into a TypeScript file. So what we need to do is go into our package.json, right? And for our script, let's make a dev script. And let's use Nodemon. Actually, there's another way you can keep it so that you can make changes to your code and have it updated in real time, you can use a package, and it's over here. I'll show it to you. It's called ts-node-dev, right? You can just install it as a dev dependency. And then we'll use that here. Actually, let's take a look at the usage real quick. So here's the usage right here. Okay, so it's ts-node-dev -- respawn, and then you can just put in your file name. Actually, we'll just throw all of this in there. Alright, but this is, of course, not our file. Okay, and let's run that, see what happens. Oh, we got an error. Okay, so we're still using requires. So where's that? That's in the resolvers. What happened here? Okay, there we go. Ah, here's the problem. And let's actually change our resolvers to a TS file as well, so we don't have to do this again. All right, hopefully that works for us. Nope. Now what? Now it says resolvers is not defined. Sorry, I'm a little bit brain dead today. There we go. Okay, so finally we're able to take a look at this response right here. And that's starting from right here. You can see that our third property down, we have port. Then if we go all the way down to the bottom, we have URL, which we can see is a string. That's how we know how to type it as a string. All right, so if we go back up here and we change this to what it was, actually we don't want this. Okay, good. So let's go to our tsconfig file, because it says here there's some problems, but there shouldn't be right now. But one thing we're going to need to worry about is setting up a build folder, right, or a dist folder, because once we compile our TypeScript, we need to put those JavaScript files somewhere, because we're not actually deploying the TypeScript files, we're deploying the JavaScript files. So if you go to out directory, this is going to be that build folder, and we'll call it build. Okay, and we'll let our root directory just be the root for now. All right, and we want to make sure we include all TypeScript files. So down here at the bottom, first we'll exclude the node modules. And then we'll include sorry, within these you've got to use the double quotes. Completely forgot about that. All right, good. So if you look, we don't have any TypeScript errors, so we're good so far. If we go over to our playground, everything's still working. Good. So anyway, that was the basic setup with TypeScript. I know it probably took longer than you would have hoped. Switching back and forth between ES5 and ES6, and then switching everything over to TypeScript can be a little bit frustrating, especially when you're either not used to doing it or it's been a while since you've done it. So anyway, I hope that helped you a little bit more, and next time what we'll do is we'll look at a different way to set up our types. Right, we'll use some tools that make things a lot easier. So as always, I thank you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.